Good morning, everybody. My name is Rachel Rose Lucky. I was I'm one of the two people that put this together with Kay Hartman, and unfortunately, we will not be having a presenter on public health. And this morning we have uh, Assad, I believe is. Go ahead and please introduce yourself. We'll have you go first. And Go ahead and introduce yourself. I do not want to butcher your name, so
It's okay. Yes, good morning, all. My name is Assad Al Najjar. I'm with the Bureau of Street Lighting. At this time, I'm a program manager for the transit division, meaning the design build of the train systems. But for the past two decades, I've been working diligently within the Bureau for the citywide broadband and internet and so forth. On another note, I'm the former vice president of the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council. Right. So the city of LA provides multiple services to all the constituents of the city of LA. And as part of it, within the Bureau of Street Lighting, our main focus has always been safety and, of course, street lights and safe nights and bright lights at safe nights. Along those lines, back in the early 80s, before even I started at the city of LA, there was a lot of programs for what we call in the technology days, wireless fiber, meaning using the high band for transmitting internet, transmitting data. Initially, it was started by the Department of Transportation, so that this way our automated traffic service would be capable of handling all the automated traffic lights back in the Olympics. The first generation we used as a brand was called the Spread Spectrum, which took all the signals from the Marina del Rey area and Venice Beach along Venice Boulevard back to City Hall. And it's all point-to-point line of sight transmission. And this way, we had capability of controlling all the traffic lights, getting the data back to City Hall without the need for highly cost of underground fiber. So that was the first seed that we fiddled around with. Along the line, as we progressed within the Bureau of Street Lighting, within my group, we looked at it from a different perspective. The Bureau of Street Lighting has about 230,000 streetlights, and that's a big asset for a backbone of any possible citywide network for internet. The first generation we looked at the time was to take over the 800 megahertz bandwidth that was not utilized by anybody, and it was left out by the police because they abandoned that frequency. As we progressed, the mobile operators started going into the 800, so that bandwidth became not a feasibility anymore. So we went to the next generation, exploring in the mid 90s, I would say, the fact of going of internet from one streetlight to the other, in which I don't want to get too technical. On the backbone, we would connect all these Lumineers on the 5 gigahertz, and then on the spot, we would provide at the 2.4 gigahertz. Now, that one is still a feasible solution to be looked at. We explored with some models, we explored with some units the past decade, but I think from this point further, it could be one of the main solutions we're gonna further go with. Also at this time, technology-wise, almost 70,000 of our streetlights have the smart nodes, which is a node that is connected back to our servers through GSM. It's a regular GSM node operates on a regular GSM mobile unit, in which we get full data of the light usage of voltage. The internet gives us the capability of getting the current as it flows. And it's in a way, we implemented it for the purpose of trying to figure out if there is any wire theft. Because the minute there is any disruption in the electricity, then the node stops working, and that flashes to us that either the wire is being stolen or the luminaire itself is bad. Few years ago, back in 2015, the city issued RFP to all the vendors for ideas and for a test bed and pilot to get a citywide internet. We got some offers, but it's been sort of very slow path. We have a pilot in Pershing Square in which there is a full Wi-Fi when you're in Pershing Square area in downtown, and it's provided back from the nodes on the top of streetlights. It's independent of anything to do with street lighting. They are just using our poles as a hanging point. But the way to move forward now, our poles would provide a full bandwidth to reach areas that nobody is providing any internet. And that's where the whole concept came in. So that this way we get to every building, we get to every house. And you have to remember, Bureau of Street Lighting is not an ISP. So we're not an internet service provider, and we're not going to be into the internet business. However, our assets can provide the internet service providers, the mobile operators, the infrastructure to put all their equipment. And that's where we're heading with. Something like the mobile WiMAX, which we played around with, that you see giving internet on dash buses. So those would be more of a fixed point WiMAX rather than the what's known as the point-to-point. Of course, with all this, while we're getting these plans together, the technology had moved from whatever we had played around in the WiMAX to go to the LTE, and then now the 5G. And that's where the mobile operators came in and installed a lot of repeaters and a lot of boosters in many areas, starting from little antennas, like about 6-7 inch antennas, to the big bulky balls that you see installed on the top of street. And all that is leading towards resilience, so that this way, if anything happens in the city of LA, at least we have a backbone to support the internet, not only for the constituents, but also for all our emergency personnel, LAPD, all the first responders. At this time, we have budget. We are in the incubator on, I mean, the first questions that I started asking my management about it was Thursday. So we're really in a good position now to implement many technologies. Personally, I prefer to have it on the Lumineer itself, because that way we have the capability of providing as many people as we can. One technology we looked at, but it's still in the incubator, is the internet from light, they call it Wi-Fi. So it's being tested and implemented in Scotland, because that's where it started about 6 years ago. I've tried it. It works great in their environment. However, in our environment, I don't think it's still ready. It works at night. So you put your computer under the street light and you will have a full bandwidth of internet. And it's very high speed. It's almost 10 times faster than the regular internet you get on the Wi-Fi right now. And that's where we are. And if there is any questions, I think this is a time I could answer any questions for you.
We don't have any questions in the chat at the moment. People are probably still drinking their coffee and trying to wake up, just like me. Good morning,
Oh, I've been
folks.
quite awake. I mean, you know, I'm a civil structural engineer, but the internet and the wireless and the mobile is sort of my, bread and butter hobby. I explore into solutions and innovations back from the day we had the first GPRS and the old Motorola big phones, all the way to now. I fiddled around with a lot of the technologies, and I still do. Over a year ago, I built actually a siren system to fit inside our Lumineers, and in which you give a signal and from your mobile phone as a first responder, and then the Lumineers will start having all these sirens for evacuation. It's a solution I've seen working very well in Florida, and we were thinking of it here in LA. Actually, Florida, their Lumineers, they even have the speakers and the microphone, so that this way they could have two-way chat with the whoever is on the street. And that's where the concept we went in the city of LA for the smart poles. As you know, there is almost now close to 30 smart poles installed in the city of LA as a pilot, and eventually that's going to be all the poles in which you have your EV charger, you have your USB plug-in, plus two-way communication to the 911. In addition, our Lumineers have capabilities then for dimming and for all kinds. For street lighting, we have, to get to you where we're using a lot of the wireless fiber, we have full communications all the way to the LAX tunnel, in which from our office, we control the dimming and we control the lighting level between daytime and night. That's the long tunnel under the runway. Also, we have the same model implemented with the tunnel under Van Nuys Airport. The other item we've tried with is we had installed a lot of solar lights on our street lighting and solar panels just for the feeding back to the grid to DWP. And those we have full communication using, in some areas T-Mobile, other areas AT&T, and other areas Verizon, depending on the signal. And it give us full production. The one item maybe I didn't talk about was, and this is maybe where we're heading, in the mid-90s, we explored into the possibility of having partnership with DWP to have internet over power, in which something I saw the concept in one of the villages in Canada, and it could be still a capability. It has a lot of challenges because in a way, Bureau of Street Lighting has no control over the power lines that DWP owns. So I cannot go and volunteer giving services on somebody else's assets. But it is still a wide capability that can be tapped into. It has challenges because my understanding, when you get to the transformers, you start losing the internet. And but we will look at it for the next few months as we go, and where the experts beyond me come in and talk about it, the communication experts, the vendors. And of course, we as the Bureau of Street Lighting are open to all suggestions, all possibilities, all presentations.
We have a question in the chat. This technology is for use outside, not in homes or cars.
So, okay, so there is two ways we're going, and that's the direction I got on Thursday. So one is the one me as my group and my division have been implementing with, dealing with the outside. But the understanding I have is that beyond the outside, when you get to, let's say, a big building in which they have no way of getting any internet from anybody, then our street light would be the main hub, and then we connect through to the building and provide inside the building for the people who need internet that they don't have it. That's one option. And of course, the other one would feed into the buildings that doesn't have, like schools that doesn't have any fiber or any internet or any DSL, then we would feed in the inside. The next focus is going to include the inside the buildings. Yes.
One of the reasons that this intrigues me personally is that a lot of our and the pandemic and students being taught at home virtually really has made it clear that there is a digital divide.
Right.
And a lot of our low income folks do not have access to the internet. And a municipal Wi-Fi system would certainly alleviate that problem. It was from what you were saying, that once you're at the pole, and then you would transfer into the building. Does that piggyback on then already established internet access? Like I have cable, internet coming in, which I pay for. But if I couldn't and we had a municipal Wi-Fi, would you piggyback onto those existing lines of service, but not necessarily having to go through that particular internet provider's network?
That's the direction where we're heading, in which the areas, and especially the the low income areas and all that, it will be provided for free. Yes, it's not my call, but the direction I am understanding is that all those will be connected to our city services, and then it will be at no cost. So that's the direction we are heading with. Yes, like when you're in LAX, you could just, while you're inside the terminal, you get the service. When you're into the convention center, same thing. And that's where we're heading with it. Again, we're not an ISP. The Bureau of Street Lighting is not ISP, but we are, sharing our assets, our poles, with the providers and with the city bandwidth. So this way we would provide internet. Like I was mentioned, Pershing Square right now, while you're sitting in the garden, it's free internet. And there is a lot of little hubs and islands we're testing citywide is doing the same thing. Like for us, Bureau of Street Lighting, during the pandemic, what we did, the EV chargers, the electric vehicle chargers that we have on our street lights, we immediately made them free of charge, because typically we charge about $1 an hour of power for charging your car. But to help the people out, all our EV chargers are free. The assets that we control, we immediately provide services to the people. Now, the other ones that we have no control, like the internet, we try to get it to the people, and that's where we're at now, and that's where we're heading. my colleagues in the technology division and in the smart city deployment division are exploring in which areas goes first, which ones goes next. And along the line, the whole internet intention came really because we want to install a citywide monitoring system from the perspective of, let's say where I live in Porter Ranch, we had the gas leak and we had no way of knowing what's going on up to date, what's the gas values and all that. And what's the effect in Granada Hills, Northridge, south of us, all the way to even Santa Monica and area or into all San Pedro. So if we put, let's say, a lot of these smart monitors citywide, once we have anything in gas, we would know the damage in the whole city. Same thing, we have around LAX and around Santa Monica Airport and around Burbank Airport sound monitors, so that if the sound gets too loud, we would have discussions with the airport so that to minimize on the effect. Our solar panels at this time, as a side data, I use the temperature in the areas where they are. And as it gets to high temperature, then we would inform DWP that this area has higher heat area so that they expect more usage of the AC power and all that. So that was the main intention. However, once we came to it and we see everybody in any city started providing free services in internet, we expanded our vision. And hopefully we will have a fast deployment. I mean, I've been trying to have this implemented since the mid-90s. And hopefully before I retire in a couple of years, I will have it, the red ribbon cut on it.
So you're saying that the city would not be an ISP, an internet service provider.
No, the street lighting at my department, we're not an ISP. The city, that's really a decision for the IT division and the vision that the Mayor Garcetti would have a discussion with them. And along the line, I mean, my current boss, he used to be the deputy mayor, handling all the innovation and technology in the city of LA. So, and that's where now he's within the street lighting. So we will have a blend of this vision and we will have a direction. And I'm sure the city will have partnerships with the ISPs to provide the internet through our infrastructure. That's the point I'm trying to say. We're not competing with the ISP. We're providing channels to all the ISPs, and along the line in the areas that is low income, it will be free of charge for the community.
I'm not sure where our other presenter got to. I don't know if he's having technical difficulties. I know he was on the East Coast, I think.
Well, for the banking you're talking about, or the health?
The public bank.
Right. Well, from the public bank, I mean, many of the ATMs along the line, many of the ATMs today are connected through fiber. But however, in rural areas, there is a lot of the banking and the ATMs use the GSM or the CDMA technologies, depending if they connect to Verizon or T-Mobile. And along the line, from when we get to the full deployment of a full smart city, the citywide internet or all these wireless capabilities would expand on their banking. On the health systems, the ambulances today use a lot of the mobile networks. However, they will even have capabilities at those days in a smart city environment to tap into the even faster than the mobile networks. The technologies is getting there. It's evolving. By the time we explore and test one technology, next morning it's obsolete and we have to go back. I mean, like the discussion we just had, I started looking at these in the simple GPRS at the time, the fastest modem we had in a phone. And now we're looking what's going to be 6G, because 5G is already deployed and it's going to be obsolete in a couple of years. So we have always to think ahead. Our bikeways that we installed along the Highway 5 is very smart nodes. They talk to each other at this time to give data if there how many bikers are, and along the side it gives dimming capabilities, increase the light as you're biking at night. It has the capabilities, even though it's now 11 years old, it has the capabilities if we plug into it an internet service that as you bike under the streetlights of the bikeway, you would get internet. Of course, it's going to be slow because once you're mobile and you're switching from one node to the other, there is always lag time, so that to keep your IP alive and could keep your bandwidth going. But for if you're sitting under a bikeway light, then you would have service. It's not connected yet, but hopefully once we get a green light from the mayor's office, we could have it as a quick pilot and see if you're in the vicinity of any bikeway, and there is many of them right now, then you would get internet too. It is a challenge. Yeah, it is a big challenge, you know, and the digital divide, you know, it's big, but we're working on it.
But I love your enthusiasm and passion that you're actually, you know, taking this on as a side, you know, a personal side project. I think that's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, it's a hobby.
It's a hobby. Does anybody in the audience have any questions? Any other questions? And I don't know what happened to our public bank presenter. I sent an email and I'm trying to see if somebody can track down his phone number. I wasn't prepared to make that particular presentation myself, even though I am working with the group. If anybody has any questions on public bank, I can answer questions.
Well, you want to give us a flavor what's all about the public bank?
Well, the idea is that right now, you know, for me as somebody who's a progressive who you know, wants to see good things done in the world, and you know, us being more ecologically friendly, you know, we have billions of dollars parked with um, uh, with uh, with commercial banks. I believe Bank of America and J.P. Morgan Chase are the big number, the big ones, and our funds are invested, and some of the funds are invested in situations that are not necessarily eco-friendly, such as the fossil fuel industry. And so, you know, one of the ideas is that if we could create a municipal bank here in LA, that that we would, you know, make sure to invest those funds in ways that you know, are better in line with our values as a city and the directions that we're trying to go as a city. The other thing is that a municipal bank would be able to make a banking decision and utilize city funds more effectively in targeting particularly our communities of color and our low income communities, so that particularly where it comes to small business, um, being able to better target getting funds, loans to our small business communities. And we know that for like $100 million worth of loans, um, that the default rate is really less than about 5%. And so, in $100 million, if it costs us, if it costs the city taxpayers, $5 million, say, to make sure that $95 million worth of economic stimulus and loans going out to small businesses, that's to me that's worth the money. I'd rather see my tax dollars go to that as opposed to building bombs and things like that. So you know so that those are a couple of things. And then the other thing is, in my view, we don't have a housing crisis. We have a low income housing crisis. And uh, a municipal bank in Los Angeles could make those kinds of investments as well. Um, you know, Also right now, just to service the investments that are being made. Bank of America and JP Morgan Chase, we pay over $1 billion in fees to service the general fund, as well as because the money has to get parked someplace. Our tax dollars, they come in to the government, and they don't just they're not in a vault under City Hall. They have to go someplace. And so traditionally they go to commercial banks. And then there's also, I believe, $42 billion worth of pension funds. It's not like a municipal bank would be using the funds directly to do certain things. The funds that are on tap would be basically leveraged. There, without, as you said earlier, Assad, without getting too technical, there are within the banking industry, there are ways to leverage funds, and instead of a commercial bank servicing, say, like the city puts out a municipal bond issue, like we did with HHH. That was a bond issue, and investors would buy those bonds, and over time they would make money on that. That could be done through a municipal bank as well, and we get to save all those service fees that go to service that kind of operation. So yeah, there are a lot of advantages. Publicbankla.com. That's publicbankla.com. You can find a lot of really good information there about it. There is a motion at City Hall right now that came out of committee in May and it's waiting for Council Member, Council President Nuri Martinez to put on the agenda for full City Council. Then the only thing we're looking for right now, and this is what the motion is about, is to hire a consultant. There was already a motion that was put forward to say that we wanted to do this, but now there's a motion that actually activates that to happen, and that's to hire a consultant to actually put together a business plan for this, and then that would go back. Once that's done, that would go back to City Council. So, yeah, there's still a lot of opportunities for the public to weigh in. We're just kind of getting started with this, but we definitely got to get this request for proposal out. And so we're asking folks to contact Nuria Martinez's office or call in for public comment to gently ask. We don't need to yell and scream at her for this one. To ask to get this agendized so that we can go ahead and move forward with this. And so that's kind of where we're at in the process. We just need to get this little motion. We're not establishing a bank today. We're just asking to go ahead and put out the request for proposals to hire a consultant so that we can put together a business plan.
Sounds like a good plan for me. And this way you could fund actually a lot of the businesses, local businesses. It could be an incubator for new startups, something like what they did in the Silicon Valley, in which we encourage a lot of our local, especially youth and our local community who are starting businesses to come to this bank.
No, absolutely. Well, the bank initially would be what we call a banker's bank. And Lindsay, I did see your comment in the chat. And again, the web address is publicbankla.com, I believe. Yeah, it's a banker's bank. In other words, we would be, we're not, a municipal bank would not be in competition with the commercial banks, and particularly the community banks. We would work with them and be able to get funds out through the local commercial banks. The big thing is that no matter how good your business plan is and whether or not, oh, there's David now. Hey David, I was doing my best to give an overview on Public Bank. Was just starting to talk about being able to give loans to small businesses and things like that. But we've got about 8 minutes left. If you want to go ahead and jump in on this conversation and give us your thoughts. Hey, David.
Apologies. Hi, Rachel. Hi, everybody. My humble apologies. I'm happy to contribute however I can. I'm sorry I'm coming into the conversation so late. But I do want to thank everyone for discussing the issue. Rachel, I don't know, how can I best contribute at this point?
Just want to jump in real quick. Sorry, David. My name is Gibson. I'm an NEA, part of the department. So just want to give you a 5-minute heads up courtesy. The Zoom will be ending soon. So if you're able to do something in 5 to 6 minutes, we'll definitely go ahead.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. And let me go ahead and I'll share a screen really quick and I'll walk through a presentation just so that we can talk a little bit about a public bank here in LA. I know that we've got a lot of sophisticated folks on right now, but I wanted to zip right to some of the requirements of what we're going to be seeing in the upcoming RFP and exactly what it's going to be proposing. and what we think is most important about that process.
I did make the pitch to and explain, what the RFP was for, and
Great. Great. So yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that the most important thing coming out of the process is that we have democratic input from the communities that are going to be most affected by the bank, and which are going to be the communities that are borrowing from and using its services and will effectively own that bank. Those conversations are critical to shaping its mission and its scope, and in driving the RFP toward an actual executable plan that has political support as well as financial soundness. Obviously, we have some presumptions about what might be a part of such a plan and what programs are likely to be emphasized. And obviously, we see local government agency financing, especially for schools, infrastructure, housing, partnership lending to businesses in COVID recovery, and long-term infrastructure and affordable housing loans and bonds. Hopefully, the standardization of some of those things and the creation of a real pool of public capital. Our timeline is shifted to the right a little bit because of when the RFP is coming out here, but we think that realistically a bank can be up and running in the next 2 to 3 years and start to have real generational effects within 10. Once again, I really I really appreciate the opportunity, and thank you for letting me jump in here at the very end. And if I can answer any questions, I'm really happy to.
But to wrap up, just wanted to, sorry, apologize for disturbing as we continue to wrap up. If anybody wants to use the raise hand feature, please go ahead or use the chat box. We definitely want to be able to provide answers as much as we can.
I got a lot. We've got one in the chat. Good morning, Southeast Neighborhood Council Area 1 Rep. My question, suggestion regarding street lighting is when they are vandalized, why don't fix the problem permanently? Instead, cables going on ground switch to going up to avoid to be vandalized.
Okay, so I'll give it. I was typing the answer, or I'll say it. We get hit a lot by the wire theft being vandalized, and for the past many years, we've been trying a lot of solutions. The most effective one we've been doing so far is the locked pull boxes with the permanent seal, so that this way it deters thieves and it deters a lot of these vandalism. It has challenges. We're seeing people coming in now with jackhammers and going through the sidewalk to jackhammer to get to the conduit.
Jeez.
But yeah, it's a very it's a very big problem. But we are working very hard to find solutions. I have a team now just trying to find a lot of the approaches in which we deter this theft. Along with the wire theft, we are being challenged with power theft, in which a lot of the people just taking the pull box or the backhaul cover, tap into our circuit and steal the power. So we are working on it, and we're in touch with all the vendors to find us solutions, and eventually we will get there. It's costing us millions of dollars. And what it is, once your wires are out, it takes them 15 to 20 minutes to steal the wire in a stretch. It take us at least 2-3 days to put it back because of the challenge of dealing with old conduits and old infrastructure under the ground. But thanks for the question, and any suggestions, I'll put my email in the chat in a minute.
And I think, just to kind of dovetail with the public bank, David, correct me if I'm wrong, Public Bank LA can also help us with our, outdated infrastructure that, in some cases is, 50, 90, 100 years old.
Yes, absolutely. A really important way that a public bank can funnel additional financing into energy infrastructure in particular is by creating windows of financing and underwriting loans made to public entities that are making those energy upgrades, especially for energy savings and greening those grids, making them more reliable, making them less prone to wildfire creation. All of those, by certifying certain kinds of loans within those windows or bonds within those windows, they can then turn around and create a secondary market for that debt and give even private investors a way to make ESG or environmental, social, and governance-based investments, which benefit the public, but at the same time safeguard those public assets from the sort of vagaries of private ownership by using the public as sort of a firewall against private investment interference, in the same way that bond investors in the US government don't have any say over, at least not directly, the policy of the US federal government. We can use a public bank to standardize and create these kinds of environmental investments and then direct that money to where it's most necessary.
I like the way that kind of dovetailed together here at the end. We have run out of time. I'd like to thank our participants for being here. I'd like to thank our panelists, Assad and David, and hopefully this was informative, and enjoy the rest of the Congress and the rest of your day.